fancy a bit of China reading, I wanted to share with you some of the books that I've read over my life really, that have really given me a background into what it's like, what life is like in China. And sometimes if you read those books on their own, they, they're quite confronting. But now that I'm actually in China and I'm reading reading books about China while I'm in China, it just reinforces to me how checkered China is. And books that I've read are novels by Pearl Buck. If you don't know who Pearl Buck is, she's an American woman who grew up in China. Her parents were missionaries. The book that won Pearl Buck a Pulitzer Prize was called The Good Earth, and it was written back in the 1930s. And most of her books are written between 1930s and 1940s. And the way she's able to tell the stories of a Chinese person from a Chinese perspective is just amazing, because she was there from a child. She really has an amazing way of describing life from a Chinese perspective, even though she's American. I've read her biography as well, and it's really interesting. So if you can get hold of Pearl Buck's biography, that's a really good book. I'll put the name of it in the annotations below. The other book is a really well-known book called Wild Swans by Jun Chang, I think that's how she spells her name on the book. That's really famous, gives you a really in-depth history of the last sort of 100 years in China. And the book that I've just finished reading, which I talked about in my video last week, called The Good Women of China by Xinran. She's a journalist. She's born in 1958. She moved to England in 1997, and she released her book in 2002, and that includes lots of stories about modern women in China, and it's really fascinating. It makes me think all the mothers and the grandmothers that I see at the school gate picking up my kids, what kind of the last 50 years of their life was like. And I think China is really a kind of a place of contradiction. So everyone's got their smartphone, they're as connected as anyone in the world. Obviously there are some banned sites in China, but they're very connected to all of the sites in China. They're all using their credit cards to order things online. They have Groupons, they have all that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, you still see, other kind of ways of living which kind of seem a bit more not as advanced. So anyway, so when you come to China, you'll see what I mean. It's kind of a checkered China. That's my video, and you want to hear more about what it's like, what China is like, how to learn Chinese, how to travel in China, then you can sign up to my e-newsletter at studiochina.com.au and read more about what I do below. I'd love to hear from you, so tell me in the comments if you've read any of those books. My first China study tour is happening in a couple of months' time, so we're getting prepared for that. So I'm going to show people around, my favourite clients around Qingdao, and teach them some more Mandarin so they can practice on the streets of China. So even though people have been discovering and understanding Chinese culture for a long time, I think that we can keep going. There's still a lot for us to learn.